The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracens Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Views expressed on the Fezcast are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Saracens Limited, the Saracens Supporters Association, Saracens Mavericks, or any other entity. The Fezcast is designed to be inclusive for the whole Saracens family, however occasional adult content may evade the censoring robots, so discretion is advised. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
It's the Fezcast with Matt Barlett and Jez Denson in association with the Saracen Supporters Association.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast, our first one in February. And hi Matt, how you doing? How's you been since the last time we spoke?
Oh, I still don't know what day of the week it is, but yeah, we're doing all right. Busy time, but yeah, it's good to sit down and talk a bit of rugby, talk a bit of netball as well.
Well, we've got two sets of interviews, one in two parts and one in one part. So Kat and Gabby from Saracens Mavericks have joined us again and talking about the forthcoming Maverick season. And we also managed to get, I managed to get hold of him through Facebook. Over in Brive, Hayden Thompson Stringer, who was good enough to chat with us about his time at Saracens and his move to Brive. And then for the second part of his interview, we talk about the Six Nations and taking a kind of French perspective or a viewpoint from France, shall we say. Obviously, Hayden hasn't quite assimilated entirely into the French, although by the sounds of it from the interview, his daughter has.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was good to talk to all three of them, really. I'm not looking forward to having to put all of this on social media. I think, especially on Twitter, trying to get Hayden Thompson Stringer, Catherine Ratnapala and Gabriella Marshall all into one tweet is going to take up the character limit a little bit. But
it could well do, couldn't it? Yeah.
It was. I think it's a really good show today. I'm really pleased. It was fantastic conversations with all three of them. But yeah, there's plenty for us to talk about on top of that as well. So this could be a pretty bumper show, really.
Well, absolutely. Well, we best crack on. And the first things to say is we need to send our best wishes from the Fezcast to the boss, to the gaffer, Mark McCall, who, the club hasn't said a great deal, but he's taken a back step for a little while. Obviously, there's issues going on that he needs to look after himself. And, that's fair dues. He's leaving the club in good hands. Obviously, Joe Shaw will step up and everybody will step up and fill that place. And I'm sure that Mark will be in contact with the coaching team in his enforced absence. But, best wishes to him. And also, obviously, best wishes to Owen Farrell. We're going to discuss Owen's position in a little bit more depth as part of this introduction. But, bad news for him. Saracens and England with a setback on the injury. But before we do that, we do need to discuss two games for Saracens and one game at least for the Saracens women. We'll start with the women. Another great result against Worcester this weekend, flying at the top of the table.
Yeah, it was a pretty hard-fought victory. I managed to catch a few sneaky glimpses of it while I was sitting at work. In fact, I seemed to tune into it. Every time I did, we scored a try. So I should have actually been able to look more often, and it might have been a closer victory. But it was there was a few players playing in slightly experimental positions, I guess. Holly Aitchison playing at fullback. We had our new signings out there, Aled Kelter from the States and Kathy Jacobs coming on in the second row. A few other players knocking around in different positions as well. So I think we had to have a lot of rotation. We got a few people away with the England Sevens team. There's a few players injured. But yeah, all in all, still a very good performance. And I think Alex Osterbury will be very happy with, being able to bring players into the squad and shuffle things around a little bit and still be able to put in a very good performance.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the sign of a very good side, that it's almost seamless, not only players coming into the squad, but players moving around within the team. And that's only a good sign going forward for the future for them. Next up, the men. I mean, in the last Fezcast, I don't say we were critical, but we did bring out the point of bad days at the office and how they've got to cut down on bad days at the office. Against the Irish, seemed to get back on the horse quite nicely, didn't they?
Did, yeah. I finally managed to get to a game after illness and all sorts of other reasons. But yeah, it was a good performance against the Irish. But although there were signs, we let in a couple of soft tries. Although I have seen a few people making the point that every single team is doing that at the minute. I think with some of the new rules that are in place, some of the style of rugby that's being played, it's not often you go through many rugby games in a row conceding less than 10, 20 points. So maybe it's a bit of a sign of the times and something that we're going to get used to. And if I know this was a European fixture, which obviously has given us a chance of qualifying for the knockout rounds of that, but this is probably fast forwarding to our conversation about the next game. But if you look at the league table, we've scored more points than anyone. And we've also, even though it feels like we're a bit leaky in defence, we've still conceded less than most other teams. So there's still plenty to like about it.
Well, it's an interesting point you make, because I followed the Saracens Wasps game today on Twitter and watched the Tigers Sale game, where Tigers, who've been pretty damn good this year, let's be honest about it, gave away 2 or 3 very soft tries today against Sale Sharks. And, you're right. That's the level of competitiveness, that the teams are not running away from it. And don't forget, Saracens lost today, and we'll discuss that a bit more, but Quins lost this weekend, Chiefs lost this weekend, Tigers lost this weekend. We were the only one of those 3, I think, to get away with. Quins got a losing bonus point, didn't they?
I think so.
And I think, but we got a losing bonus point. And look, it's an away match at Wasps. Wasps are a good side. They've got some cracking players. I've seen a little bit of grief coming the team's way, and also a little bit of grief coming the officials' way, which we should really, these things happen in games. I think Steve Cummins had pointed out that it was a 50-22, that was a 50-24 that they scored a try from. But, we haven't got the whistle in our hands. That's it at the end of the day. The biggest concern still is discipline. 3 points came after a free kick was turned into a penalty and moved back 10 yards because someone gave it a bit of chopsies. Probably quite rightly, it was, one of those ones where the referees refereed something in a way that perhaps 95% of the people in the stadium would have disagreed with and said it on the pitch. But you just can't say something. You keep stum.
Yes.
Zip it, whoever it was, whichever player it was who did it, zip it and keep stum. Yeah. You're only going to be one loser in that, and it's not, the referee ain't going to change his mind. I did look on Twitter and see the reaction to the game today, and it sort of goes from the ridiculous, when someone saying not good enough this season, time to make big changes. Now, hang on a second, we're in second. What on earth do you expect? Sam Norris, who I know follows the Fezcast, he made a very good point. He's someone had said, the Exodus Geoghegan fan club. It's a good fight at the end to get the losing bonus point. Keyword in each and every loss this season, discipline. Really need to cut out the silly, unnecessary mental mistakes in key areas, and we'll progress significantly, to which Sam replied, agreed. We aren't a million miles away. We have 5% written on the backs of our shirts for a reason. That extra 5% work rate, discipline and execution just isn't there at the moment. And I think that's a fair comment. Do you agree, Matt?
Absolutely, yeah. This is me retiring from the Fezcast and Sam taking over. That's exactly what when he's saying. Look, rewinding a little bit back to the back chat that goes on and the discipline. Look, there are people out there who are saying we're being targeted for this, and there was a lot coming from Wasps in that regard, from 1 or 2 players in particular, that wasn't being picked up on, and it was with us, and there's bias against us, and blah 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 blah. One, there probably isn't bias against us. So if there is, then it comes from... This is a very controversial statement to make, but it is wrong to stereotype and generalize. But at the end of the day, it's quite often based on a seed of truth. The reason that it will be picked up on specifically by Saracens is that we do it quite a lot. Historically, we have been constantly either in the referee's ear or in other players' faces. That is how we played the game, on the edge, and it's worked well for us. And there's been nothing wrong with doing that. However, eventually, referees pick up on it. And if there's been a discussion between referees at the start of the season saying, right, we're going to clamp down on people mouthing off to referees, here are some of the worst offenders to look out for. I'm sorry, but we're one of them.
Well, absolutely, Matt. You're 100% right there. And we're not the only club that do it. You're right. But we're being the ones who, and it's no different to the prop who's forever being done for collapsing inwards. Once that gets into the minds of referees, and, Wayne Barnes doesn't go home on a Saturday afternoon and not ring Luke Pearce on the Monday and say, how did your game go, Luke? And Luke goes, yeah, well, I refereed this game and this player was... Of course they talk, and that's how they become good referees and how they gain a consistency. So it's fair dues. One thing I will say, having watched the Tigers Sharks game today, and I think it was other than the fact that seeing Richard Wigglesworth playing like a 17-year-old still at 38 years old, there was a moment, and this is one of my big things that I really, really hate, is that Tigers got a scrum penalty, yeah. And Richard Wigglesworth picked the ball up and was going to go for a tap and couldn't go for the tap because his outside centre had run 35 metres to go and clap and slap and cheer his blinking pack. They'd just done their job. There was space. This is a Jez Rants now. I'm going to have a Jez Rants early. Space everywhere, and they couldn't exploit it because the outside centre was too busy coming in, giving it, well done, lads, and getting in the face of the opposition front row who'd been penalised. Can we just, this is going out to all directors of rugby throughout the world. Can we ask that if your centres are doing that you give them a slap on Monday morning and say, don't, just play the blinking game? Because I absolutely hate it. If I've, as a member of a pack, and I've won a penalty, what I want is you to exploit that and to go down the field and score a try. I don't need you to come over and say, oh, well done. Anyway, I got that off my chest. But am I right?
We're going to take a short break now, and Jez is going to go and have a cold shower.
I'm going to have a slurp of Pinot Grigio. It does wind me up. And Saracens, to pick out a player, you'll always see Nick Tompkins come flying in to clap and everything. And if I spoke to Nick, myself personally, I'd say, why do you do it? I'd like to know. I'd like to know, why do you do it?
Yeah, to be honest, it's a part of Marrow's game I'm not a massive fan of as well. He has to fire himself up to play at the level where he does, and sometimes it spills over into the sort of shouting in opposition players' faces, which I don't really get on with, to be honest, but it happens. But yeah, it's when it goes too far, and like with this season, we're being pinged for things like that time and time again, and we're not learning from it. That's the problem. Fair enough, we played that way for so long. It's now being picked up on. You adapt, you improve, you try something else. We're not learning quickly enough, to be honest. And it's it's men and women. It's both of our teams. We're not adapting to how we're being refereed. I think the women have got there quicker, because I think last season we saw a lot of yellow cards for things at the breakdown. And we saw a lot of players being warned for their conduct on the pitch. And I don't think it's been happening quite as much this year. Men need to do it, and they need to do it fast.
Absolutely. Right. Enough of that. Let's move on to the big news, which obviously is Owen Farrell and an injury that is keeping him now out of the Six Nations, keeping him out of playing for us for 8, 10, possibly 12 weeks, an operation on an ankle. I'm going to throw the question out there. Did he try coming back too soon? Desperate to play for England, which is understandable. But, I think Owen will probably, he won't admit this to himself, but he sat there looking at the wonder kid from Harlequins, Marcus Smith, stepping up. And possibly, Eddie's already now made a big rod for his own back in saying that Marcus Smith needs Owen Farrell outside him. Well, hopefully Marcus Smith won't need Owen outside him. And I think Henry Slade will be playing inside centre. And, he's in great form. He's a great player, Henry Slade. And he will help him through games. He's got a lot of experience there. But has Owen come back too early? And given Owen's age, his relative position within, I think Owen, Eddie Jones takes him each day and every week. But at the last Fezcast, I did say I wouldn't take Owen on this at the start of this Six Nations. And I think I've been proven right in that, because I do think he's come back too early. But he's now out for this whole Six Nations. A lot will be relevant on how well Marcus Smith plays. But if Marcus Smith has a great Six Nations, could this be the end of Owen Farrell in an England shirt?
No. I think, for Eddie's comments about Marcus Smith needing Owen Farrell outside of him, Marcus Smith won't have got to where he is today listening to things like that and not saying anything other than, right, I'll show you, boss.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that Marcus Smith will play well this Six Nations. He won't look like he's missing someone like Owen Farrell outside him. It may be that England have to adapt to a slightly different style with two centres who are going to be playing in slightly different ways to having that physical crash ball, kick ball 12. It may be that we have to have two fairly flash centres, which hasn't been England's way for a long time. But I think we're going to adapt. But yeah, Owen Farrell, it's a little bit early to say, but you look at Johnny Sexton for Ireland. Whenever he's fit, he plays. End of story. And I think Owen Farrell still has that about him in his career. He will still come back in for Saracens. He will be starting 10 every day of the week. There's no doubt about that. When he's around, when he's fit, and I think he's still a world-class player. Who knows whether he came back a bit too early? He probably did. We don't know how the injury was incurred. It might be a freak thing because it's the opposite ankle. It might be because he's been overcompensating on that one and something's happened. We don't know.
Well, from what I've heard, it was Nick Tompkins. He either stood on Nick Tompkins or Nick Tompkins stood on him. So it's all a Welsh conspiracy to keep Owen out of the game. Exactly.
But there we go. That could have happened without his previous injury, or it might be a result of it. There's no point in us speculating.
Yeah, we don't know. We're not there on the training paddock. It's just one of those things that I think it might be a good thing for England, as you say, that they might have to forced into playing a more expansive, a more speedier game, a different game, less reliant on kicking. That might be a good thing. Who knows? It's an interesting one. And something that we will touch on with Hayden in the second part of the interview with Hayden. But
let's look at next year. We've got a Rugby World Cup on the way. What could be better than having, let's say, three players at the moment: Owen Farrell, George Ford, Marcus Smith, all capable of being your starting 10 in a World Cup, and you're pretty much capable of having at least 2 out of 3 on the pitch all at the same time if you want to.
Yeah,
that's what we've been talking about. Eddie Jones blooding promising young players and giving them the experience and getting them involved in an England shirt before a World Cup. All right, it's been forced on him a little bit, but it is happening. This is exactly what we wanted to see. So,
who knows? Look, we've got lots to get on with this show. As I say, we've got Kat and Gabby coming up in part 2, but we've also got a 2-part interview with Hayden Thompson Stringer. We say thank you ever so much, Hayden, for taking time out of his schedule to speak to us from France. So we've done Japan, we've done Fiji, we've done France. I mean, we're becoming international.
Doing all right, yeah. I mean, I might have to record from, I don't know, where am I going to go on a honeymoon at the end of the year? Let's find somewhere that we can tick off as well as that.
Well, you need to do something along with rugby. So I mean, South Africa would be good if you could. I mean, perhaps rock up with Brad Barrett.
If you're willing to pay for it, mate, I'll go anywhere you like.
But let's get on with our interview with Hayden. We'll discuss this one off air. But yeah, so this is part one of our interview with Hayden Thompson Stringer on the Fezcast with me. I'm Matt Bartlett.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome to a former Saracens player who's moved over to the other side of the channel, enjoying life en France. We say bonjour and bienvenue, and that's just about my French there. But welcome to the Fezcast, Hayden Thompson Stringer. Thank you for joining us, Hayden. How are you doing?
No, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, to catch up with old friends. It's always nice.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And first things first, how is it over in France? How's life treating you?
Yeah, it's good. It's completely different to the UK. We're just enjoying it. Me and the family, we're making the most of it. Playing rugby, that's what it's about, and just enjoying our time.
Well, excellent. I mean, I suppose we'll talk about your career at Saracens. You spent, was it 6 years at the club?
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah, or five or 6 years, I think it was. Yeah, roughly. Yeah,
didn't quite make the 50 appearances for the club. Well, according to your Wikipedia page, which is, as we discussed beforehand, is a little bit limited, but
yeah. No, I think I got 29 caps for Saracens throughout my time there. Obviously, that's not counting, A-League, LV Cup and stuff like that. So, all in all, I probably made a few A-League appearances, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, you enjoyed your time at Saracens. It was a good grounding in the game. But how difficult was it for you to move on? And or was it an easy decision? Was it, a case of okay, you got an opportunity in France and not only playing, but also, as you alluded to, another type of life.
Yeah, I mean, first off, my time at Saracens was unbelievable. You being around such a good group of players, guys, coaching staff, all very, very talented in their own aspect. Being around world-class players, non-stop, it just gives you that drive and that build to obviously push on. In regards to me moving, I did have the opportunity to stay, but I thought it was time for me to move on, try and make my own, path and try and catch up on a bit of game time and experience that I felt like I may be missing out on because, being at one of the best clubs in the world, the players in front of you are the best players in the world. So you can understand the likes of younger players moving on, and that was what it was. I got the opportunity to go and to play some rugby, and that's what I'm doing.
Oh, excellent! I mean, it's great to see that you're making a success of your time over in Brive. I think everybody from Saracens wish you the best when you moved on and everything like that. I mean, how did you break it to your family? Because I know, like your parents and everything, you're staunch supporters and at games and whatever. I mean, how did that conversation go?
It was a bit of a difficult one to go into. I mean, I just came back from rupturing my hamstring at the time when Saracens offered, and my head wasn't really thinking about that. It was more thinking about just getting back playing, and that was kind of the way I was looking at it. Just get back, get in the mix, and see what I can do. Unfortunately, I waited too long, and Saracens had to make a choice, and through agencies and whatever, there was a bit of miscommunication, we should say. But it is what it is, and everything happens for a reason. And for me, I think genuinely that it was the right time and probably the best opportunity to move away. Moving away, has given me that opportunity to play lots of rugby and catch up on probably maybe 1 or 2 years that I could have been playing a lot more. Breaking it to a family, and that wasn't easy. I think my mum and dad. Your mum and dad, they just support you with whatever you want to do, don't they, really? So I could have told them I'm going to Japan and they would have been happy for me. The hardest thing was for my partner. She was pregnant. So
Right.
when you're having that discussion and things are going as it is, and she had a really good job in Harpenden, it was tough. You almost... you question yourself when you get to that point, and you're asking someone to move their life for you as well. So now, obviously, now I've got a little girl who was born in France, born in Brive, understands French. She struggles to speak, but she's enjoying life, and she's learning a different culture, a different way of living over here. Just as me and my partner are, we're just going with the flow of things. But I think, breaking it to people and speaking to people, I think everyone was pretty happy for me. The fact that I had a good opportunity to go and play in the top 14, that league is known to be one of the best leagues out there. You get some of the teams on their best days, and you really are going against the best. Week in, week out, you're going against the likes of Etzebeth and Colby, and you can go on. The list is continuous. Like now, Skelts, Chris Tollifer, ex-players who are over there. You meet them, week in, week out. But as well, I think Mark McCall was happy for me that I found a good opportunity. He actually has a good relationship with Jeremy Davison, the coach of Brive. Yeah. They have this relationship, and that So when they were interested and they're speaking about signing me, Jeremy actually spoke to Mark and just, they had a conversation and said that it'd be great for the team. Told him the type of player I was. So I think it all fit in really well, like a nice puzzle. And now we're just making the most of it, year by year, see what happens.
It's interesting you mentioned Jeremy Davison there. I was going to bring that up because I'm a player of a certain vintage, the 1997 British Lions, which Jeremy Davison went on and partnered Martin Johnson in the test matches at Lock Forward. A big name in the game, and a player actually you surprised a few people coming through into that Lions team when he looked at all the players that were around. But how are you enjoying working with him? And the other question, I suppose, is, obviously you're in a new country, but you look at the Brive squad and you've got quite a lot of different nationalities, a lot of Pacific Islanders in that team. Do you all speak French at the club, or is there a melting pot of different languages? And have you learned much French?
Yeah. So in terms of like that kind of side of it, there's a lot of French players in the squad. I think the difference is the way it looks is the fact of academy players for Saracens. That's what happens essentially in French rugby. Georgian players, Samoans, Fijians, South Africans, from all over the world, that they sign as an academy player. And as it works, after doing so many years in the academy before you sign a professional contract at the club, you're then classed as a GIF player, which inevitably allows you to be part of the roster of the team and not be classed as a foreign player. So you actually have only a limit per year on foreign players. So although we look like we are very foreigner based, there's a lot of French lads in that squad who who are there, and we speak, you pick up words from different cultures. You pick up words in Fijian, you pick words in Afrikaans, Georgian, but predominantly you speak English, and that's because over here they're made to learn, well, not made, they're kind of pushed to learn English at school for a good amount of years from a young age, so they understand more so what we're talking about. In terms of French, we do lessons. You have to do compulsory lessons when you join a French club. It's just part of the way it is. So if I'm out in public, I completely understand what people are talking about. Completely understand if I'm in the middle of a conversation. To speak back, sometimes it gets difficult. As you can imagine, you get frozen in a few situations, or you get misplaced in a few words, and it can sound completely wrong. But predominantly, having Jeremy there, he speaks fluent French. All the coaching staff speak French and English, and they translate all of the meetings for us. So it works really well. I think we've got a good young squad who are willing to play rugby. And we just got to keep gelling as a team almost to keep pushing, I think.
Excellent. Well, the other question I was going to ask you is, obviously you're now over in France, but do you keep in touch with any of the lads back at Saracens? Who's in the speed dial on your phone for a bit of? Well, obviously you've got a game coming up in April where in the Challenge Cup. Who's the main bants on WhatsApp?
I speak continuously to the likes of Marrow, Vincent, Tom Griffiths, who's not there anymore. He's at Dragons. Tom Whiteley, I speak to him. I don't think there's this relationship with anyone that you don't kind of just chat in. Like I spoke to Liam Williams the other day, like for a good conversation. It's more like when you come up or when you pass someone in terms of like playing against an old team or you just come across your paths cross and you catch up. So I speak to probably them lot the most, but I'm very reserved myself in terms of like texting. I'm useless at replying to texts and calls. So a lot of the time, if people do message me and someone who's listening to this, I do apologise if I haven't replied, because I am terrible at replying. Even my partner says I'm terrible. So.
Did you get anything off of anyone immediately when the Challenge Cup draw was made, or even from the family? Just sort of.
I think, to be honest with you, I think I got excited before anyone else. Because I don't know how it worked out, but I managed to get a copy of the actual the fixture list and the weekends they were going to be played. And I'm not sure how I got it, but I got it. And, my instant reaction was to put the picture of Saracens v Brive into the WhatsApp group that I'm in with a lot of the, back in the day, academy lads, but now first teamers with all of them boys. So everyone, was just, it is what it is. It's difficult because they are two completely different teams, especially in the way that they're sitting at the minute and the way it's played. So for me, I was just excited. For me, I think that's a good opportunity to show how much I've advanced and how much I've learned in this last couple of years, and obviously also how much that I learned from Saracens and putting me into the position I'm in now. Because inevitably without Saracens, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it'll be quite nice to catch up on the pitch and have a beer afterwards.
Well, looking forward to that. Now, the last question we're asking this part is, how much of an eye do you keep on what's going on in rugby in England at the moment? Obviously Saracens' first year back in the Premiership after a year in the Championship. Did you keep your eyes on what was going on there?
Yeah. So funnily enough, I actually I keep my eye on only the Premiership and only the top 14. It's kind of bad, but I kind of went down and watched the Champ games on my phone when I could. But it was quite good to see, the likes of Bedford and stuff like that actually have a go at a good team like Saracens. And I think that Saracens proved why they should be in the Premiership. They inevitably, from my opinion, I think the culture they have is one of the best in the world. And in my eyes, I don't think what they've done is anything to be ashamed of, and that they shouldn't be ashamed of performing the way they do now. So I'm so happy to see them back in there, and I keep a track on the whole Premiership and the Championship now, and the top 14. I'm not so much of a watcher of rugby, and unless the Saracens game's on, I'll put it on and I will watch that game. But I try and keep up with it on my phone. There's a lot of there's an app on their Rugby Rama app, which is French, that you can catch up on all the fixtures and the news from games. So I try and keep up on as much as I possibly can.
Excellent. I mean, that's good to know that you still keep an eye on things and everything like that. But obviously, concentrating on your own career. And the last thing I was going to ask you, I mean, where do you want to see yourself developing over the next few years? What's in the plans going forward from here now?
So currently, at this moment in time, I've got 1 more year on my contract. For me, it's just to keep adapting, keep getting myself better, and keep proving that I can play better rugby. Last year I played 26 games, and I was the only prop. Well, I was actually the only player to play every single game in the top 14 last year. Sorry, I missed 1 game, and that was against Lyon away. But I was the only player. I would have been the only player to play that. I was available for it, and just fell on a rest week of mine. But I played 26 games, and that's nearly what I played for Saracens in my whole 5 years there. So that just goes to show how much of an opportunity I've been given over here. And look, it's tough at times with family and missing, and with COVID and stuff like that. You don't get to see family. My daughter's live most of her life without seeing family on a regular basis, and that's tough. But I wouldn't say no to coming back to the UK. I wouldn't say no to staying in France, as I wouldn't say no to going to Australia or whatever. I think when the opportunity arises, I'll sit down with my family and we'll discuss it, and we'll go through the best option for myself. And we'll go for there. I would never say never to anything, because at the end of the day, I would, before I came to Brive, I wouldn't have got to where I was now if I didn't come to Brive. So it's one of the things that all options are kind of open, and that's probably as much as I probably can say on it without giving a definitive I'm staying in France, I'm staying in the UK. I just want to carry on playing rugby for the next however long I play, however long I'm lucky enough to play, and performing and playing as well as I possibly can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the top 14 this year, I had a quick look at the league tables. Very tight where you are in Brive. I mean, you're like 4 or 5 places above the bottom, but then again, you're only 2 points off of qualifying for top European competition. So it's obviously a very tight, very competitive league you're in this year. Yeah,
it's one of them. The top 14 is very much. If you get a French team on its day, they can be absolutely amazing. But if you catch them on the wrong day, then you can also be the bottom of the league, and you could turn over top of the league quite easily. We can show you that last year we was in a similar situation, and we won, I think, every single one of our home games, and that's against Toulon, Toulouse, La Rochelle, Clermont. And they're big teams who weren't missing players. So I think the top 14 is one of them leagues that you've really got to try and give your all to every single match. And at this moment, we've been unfortunate with a few injuries and COVID, and you could sit there and make excuses throughout the first part of the season, but we haven't been good enough. So hopefully now I think we've got 16 games left still, which is crazy to think, but that's plenty of time to push our way back up and start performing a better level, and start proving again that we deserve to be in the top 14, and we deserve to stay.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And best of luck for that for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
But we'll come back and get a perspective from France on what might happen in the Six Nations. So till then, we'll say thanks a lot, Hayden, and we'll be back in a little while with you.
This is the Fezcast.
Hi, I'm Alex Lewington and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
Our aim is to tackle the stigma of mental health in rugby and society in general.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more.
You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
So yeah, welcome to the next part of the Fezcast, and we're joined by returning guests to the Fezcast. We've got Mavericks head coach Kat Ratnapala and star centre Gabby Marshall.
Hi Matt, hi Jez.
Hi, thanks for having me. I feel honoured that I'm a returning guest.
I was going to ask Jez, actually. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Kat might actually be our most featured guest now on the Fezcast. I don't think we've ever had anyone back 3 times.
I don't know if that should be celebrated or commiserated or what. Maybe I've got too much time on my hands. Don't tell anyone.
No, we haven't scared you off. That's the main thing. But yeah, so I think the last time we had both of you on together was it would have been November, December time previous year. So we were in the midst of COVID and we weren't sure whether we were going to have a netball season at all. Thankfully, we did have one. Just about got to the end of that without too much drama, and we're looking forward to the season starting. Well, this is going out on Tuesday, so at the back end of the week, we'll have the 2022 VNSL season. And right now, we have a slight exclusive on the Fezcast, which hopefully isn't an exclusive by the time we go out, so the news will have been broken properly. We have a new vice-captain this season. Does anyone want to say who that is, or can anyone guess?
Well, it's not Jez, that's for sure. Not me.
I'm hiding the disappointment very well, don't worry.
I think you'd make a great vice-captain.
Don't say that already.
I'll give it a go. If you ever need, I'll. I'm not sure I would be very good on the field though, but I could better advice from the sidelines. Go on.
Well, yeah. In case anyone needed clarifying, Gabby Marshall is the new vice captain of Saracens Mavericks this season. So first, Gabby, congratulations.
Thank you.
Most welcome. And Kat, it's probably a good time to explain just why Gabby makes a very good vice captain for the team this year.
Gabs has brought a lot of great leadership over the years. I think this is your 5th year. Can't even think how many years. It's been a long time. So Gabs has been with us for a number of years now, and she brings great leadership on and off the court. She sets a great example for our younger players coming through the pathway and within our VNSL squad. And she's got a great voice. So, absolutely wanted her to step up and to take the leadership role. She was in our leadership team of 4 last year. This year we've got a captain with Sasha Corbin and with Gabs as vice captain. So really pleased and proud to see those two step up and to lead our squad onto court.
Smashing. So Gabby, when you were first told that was going to happen, what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, obviously it was a lovely thing to be asked to do. I think we're really fortunate that within our team we've got Sasha Corbin, who's obviously a very experienced member of Saracens Mavericks and of netball in this country, and she's a fantastic captain. So for me, just to work alongside her this season is a great honour and something that I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into.
Good to hear. So yeah, Jez, unfortunately it's not you this season, but there's always next year.
Well, as I say, I'm sure that Gabby will knock my attempts into a cocked hat. But I suppose the question to ask is this something you've always wanted to do? Is this something you've wanted to develop in your game to take on leadership roles?
I don't think it's something that you ever go and start thinking about, to be honest. I guess for me, the type of player that I am, I'm quite vocal and like to get stuck in. So whether that's something that then naturally you get drawn towards because you are a vocal player, but it's definitely not something that I started my career thinking, I want to be captain, I want to lead a team. But it's a real humbling position to be, I guess, trusted with from the coaching staff and from your fellow players to have that level of respect from them is, it's a nice feeling and something that I don't take lightly. So I'll keep working hard this season and just being myself, because essentially that's why I've been picked. So looking forward to just, as I say, getting stuck in now. The season's not far away, so it's really exciting.
Fair play. And now this is where we get a bit ignorant. My question here is going to be, obviously Gabby plays in the centre of the court. Is it easier for your centre to be part of that leadership group, being at the front of both attack and defence, or is it just as easy to captain the team from shooter or keeper, or is there any logic to that? Or?
No logic whatsoever. Centre's probably the one that's probably blowing the most out of all of them, and is trying to catch their breath for air. So no logic whatsoever. However, there is obviously the link play there between attack and defence. So yes, she's got a voice in both ends, as is Sasha, with playing wing attack centre as well. But for me, it's all about the right people, and I've spoken a lot last year and this year about having the right people around the table. And I hope and I've been really impressed with the leadership that they've both shown in pre-season. It was only a recent decision that we've come to the decision of naming those two as captain and vice captain, and just been impressed by the way that they've both handled themselves around the pre-season and around the squad, and seeing how the players are actually approaching other people as well. So it's a recent announcement to the squad, I'm sure that Gabs will find her lungs and netball lungs soon, and she will be able to communicate both attack and defence, and it will be fine. But it's more about away from the matches, to be honest, as opposed to in the match itself. There's a lot of work that we've been doing in pre-season and away from the court as well, to make sure that we've got the right mix of people around, and we've got a good squad feel going into that first weekend. So again, they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes of trying to collaborate the squad together, going out together, enjoying some time together, getting to know each other away from the court, instead of it just being the pressurized cooker on the court. So by all means, they do lift themselves and lift others as well in match day situations. But there's a lot of work that's gone behind the scenes as well, which is all respect to those guys leading from the away from the court as well.
Of course, the only reason Matt asked that question was so that he could show that he knew 3 positions on the court. that we've learned since the last time. But,
it's definitely growth from the last one.
He's done very well. He's got the Ladybird book of netball and everything. He's doing very well. But I suppose the question to ask is, you're going now into a new season, looking forward to a new season. Last season was, I suppose, weird as, wasn't it, really? The way it was set up, the way that you were playing in different centres, playing games. Now you're back at home for home games, you're away for away games. How's it changed this season, and how's that affected preparation going forward?
Yeah, I guess for us as players, it's nice to feel a little bit of normality again. Obviously, last year was quite challenging. We were really fortunate and obviously massively grateful to be able to still go out and compete. But as you say, that the format was so different. So I'm hoping that this season it'll be nice just to kind of have a bit more of a routine in terms of that home and regular home and away fixtures as we're accustomed to. And again, being back playing at home will mean that we've got our home supporters there, hopefully cheering us on. So again, that as a player, that's something that's massively influential. And I don't think we realised how much of an effort and how much of a boost that gave us last season when we were playing behind closed doors. We were grateful to be able to do so, but we really missed that energy from the crowd, and we're looking forward to having that back this season, definitely.
All of the challenges of travelling up and everything else, like, I definitely knew my geography is not my strongest point, but Wakefield is far. It was a long way to go. and continuous journeys week after week to go up there, when we've got some players working for the NHS, we've got some school teachers. So while some people were obviously unable to go to work, other people had to work full time and then still play netball as well at the weekends. And it's a long journey when you've worked a full week. It's a long journey up there, and coach journeys up and travel sickness and everything. It was a little bit mad, to be honest, going up there every single week. So as Gab says, not having the home support and not being able to nip round the corner to our home venue it made a massive difference to everybody kind of going through. So yeah, definitely looking forward to having crowds back in and having a shorter journey to our matches this year. And to be honest, all of the work that's gone behind the scenes at the moment of getting the match day underway, with Joe Randall doing a fantastic job. Julie Murrow's come in as well as our MD, and she's doing a fantastic job behind the scenes of just getting all of the match day stuff set up and everything for us. So our first home game will be Friday, so it's really looking forward to having everybody down at University of Hertfordshire and getting behind the squad.
Yeah. Now, the last time you were with us, we obviously spoke about the trips to Wakefield and playing at neutral venues and having lots of double headers, and we were looking forward to not having to do that at all this season. But obviously the first thing that's going to happen is a trip to Birmingham, playing 2 matches at a weekend. So here we go. But it is Wasps Fest this week. We've already had the amateur men's rugby team play against Wasps amateurs. They won. The men's professional team have just lost. We spoke about that earlier. So we're 1 for 1 now. So it's up to you guys this weekend on Saturday, I think, against Wasps, your opening fixture, and then Celtic Dragons, I believe, the day after.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking back to, I think it was 2 years ago now, it was Aliyah Zaranyaki's first debut for Mavericks in Birmingham 2 years ago. So it would be great to get out there again. And obviously she's part of our 12 this year. So it's going to be a great feeling. And I hope that it's going to be a sellout crowd. I know a lot of people that are coming to support us and cheer us on the day. So hopefully it'll be another sellout crowd as it was 2 years ago. And we can all get back to a little bit of normality of supporting all of our fans and getting behind the squad. But yeah, a weekend away to Birmingham, 2 matches, and then we've got again the third match. So we've got 3 matches in 1 week on our first week. So it's going to be an interesting one and a challenging one, but I can't wait to get started and can't wait to see what we can do on court against Wasps and get a little bit of credit back into Saracens, and then push on for Dragons on the second game as well. There's been lots of changes within the squads this year, so it's going to be really interesting. The first weekend is going to be a lot of watching netball, of just seeing where teams are at and who they've got and who's stepping up for them and everything else. So yeah, it should be a great weekend, a great first weekend.
Cool. Gabby, is there anyone you're looking forward to playing against this season the most? Or
to be honest, I'm just looking forward to playing some netball. I've been unfortunately managing a lot of injuries over the last few years, and recently had surgery on both my ankles. So for me, it'll just be really nice to actually, touch wood, step out on court and play some netball. I'm really looking forward to being part of this group, because there's nothing worse than being on the sidelines unable to play. As much as you can rally your teammates and try and be involved, I think you don't feel as though you're contributing as much as you are when you're actually stepping out on court. So yeah, bring any team on. I'm just excited to get out on court, to be honest.
It's a very professional answer. I was hoping to get stuff in them. Yeah. But
well, I mean, I suppose the next question they'll ask, Kat, is, going into this new season, what are your aims? What do you want to achieve this year? What's on that tick list that they say this is the minimum we want to hit? This is where we want to be. This is, you had a pretty decent season last season, I think it's fair to say. Perhaps, what's the next development though for the Mavericks?
The biggest thing, we want to go out and just do ourselves proud in every single game. And I think there were games last year, and it doesn't matter if it's the first game, the last game of the season, the middle game of the season, or anything else. It's making sure that we're going out and we're doing one better every single time, and we continue to build. So every single game is important to us. And for the last 2 years, we've missed out on top 4 of reaching the semis and then the finals. We've missed that 4th spot to get us in there for the last couple of years. So definitely it's that 4th spot that we need to get. Ideally, the 2nd or the 3rd would be nicer for my heart and my grey hairs. But yeah, just getting in that top 4 for us is a definite for us this year, and pushing on, but definitely building throughout the season. We've got a strong squad this year, and as I say, they're really gelling away from the court as well as on the court. So there's some exciting stuff coming, and we know that players like Gabs as well as Razia as well are coming back from injury. So there's a lot more to go for those guys, for us to keep on pushing on through the season as well. So yeah, it's a really exciting one. We've got new players coming in like Jamila McCarthy, that's come in from Trinidad and Tobago, who's come in like a fireball in Fast 5. She had a fantastic day out competition, and has been building in training as well. Ina Marie Venter has just had an amazing quad series against Australia, New Zealand and England. And whilst obviously we were supporting England, she did pretty well against us and against the other nations as well. So yeah, it's for us, it's just building every single game, making sure that we're building more combinations, and we are seeing through every single game as well. We're starting and finishing as we mean to go on. So yeah, it's very much a work in progress for us, and very much looking at that top 4 place.
That was, you sort of hinted at it a bit there. Without giving away trade secrets, obviously, I was going to ask how everyone's shaping up towards the start of the season, because obviously there were a lot of injuries last year and a few sort of carried into pre-season as well. Are you quietly confident in everyone's conditioning at the moment? Is there anyone that's maybe struggling a bit with their injuries at all? Or
Absolutely, everyone's great, amazing, ready to go. Ready and raring to go. Yeah, I mean, we've still got, there's always going to be niggles around, but for us, it's just making sure that we can go out and put the strongest 7 that we've got available to us out on court. And we've been through it all before with COVID last year. I think last year when we started the season, I had 4 players out with COVID. So, you know, it is what it is. We turn up to every single game. As I say, I'm confident in my 15 this year. We've got 3 uncontracted players as well within our midst, within our youth, that will be coming up if needed. So there's plenty of opportunities for players to step up. And you know what? There's nothing better than a hungry player that wants to get out on court and do a good job. And I've been really impressed with some of the stuff that's coming out of training as well. So yeah, whoever we face, whatever opposition that we come across, we will put out our best foot forward. And yeah, I'm just excited to get started.
I think that might be one of the most irritating media questions I've ever asked. There we go.
I'm not saying something, Mark.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, normally I go for the Alan Partridge level of interviews. I'll ask you about your views on the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre later on. But first, obviously, rewinding back slightly to the conversation we were having previously, where you mentioned there's 3 games in the space of a week. So yeah, Saturday, Sunday, and Friday. So Friday, the first game back at home for, well, ages, basically. And the first one with home fans in. I've got a ticket. Just throwing that out there. I'm coming.
Brilliant.
But, you know, it's going to be...
Commentary. You on commentary?
Oh, am I? Oh, I don't know. Want me to do it? I will. I don't think Sky have spoken to us just yet, but, you know, maybe I'll just sit with my phone in the corner and pretend I'm doing something useful.
Look busy.
Yes. So, yeah, Friday night, 7 o'clock, I think, start in Hatfield. I think there's still tickets available if anyone wants them.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing. It's such a good atmosphere in Hearts, and at the Hearts University Sports Village, it's great to have everyone supporting us and to see all the diehard fans that come out and support us. And as Gab said earlier, the fact that they weren't able to come and support us live last year, we had a lot of players and parents and supporters come and watch us at Copperbox, because that was where the second half of the season were played out. But yeah, for us just to have our fans back in and cheering on us, and I don't think there's going to be too much interaction, unfortunately, just due to COVID and red taped areas and everything else. But definitely having the voices there and the energy there, it's definitely the 8th person on the court for us. And yeah, we strive to do better for our fans, and we want to be the role models that they want to aspire to be on court as well. So yeah, loving and looking forward to to seeing all the fans back in the stadium.
Well, it's certainly going to help my netball education.
Well, I mean, we have said before as well that when we were doing the commentary, we did mention, sort of mooted out there, that perhaps at some point at the end of this season, me and Matt could have a challenge and play netball against each other if you guys are up for that, because I think that would be quite a hilarious edition of the Fezcast, if nothing else. So
I'll link
that away there, but you did say it, Matt. You might have had a beer or two, I think, but
possibly
or three.
Giants will welcome you into their team of men, and we play against them regularly in training. So I'm sure you can come along with Giants and play against each other, and we'll have to get Gary Burgess in, some good umpires in, so to keep you two under wraps. But
I'm sure you could do with some decent refereeing, especially if I'm up against Matt.
I mean, catching, throwing, that's all you really need to worry about. No kicking the ball.
There's the problem. I was a number 8. I didn't do an awful lot of catching. I didn't do a lot of passing.
Jez has somehow managed to get the fact that he was a number 8 into a conversation about netball. This is outstanding how you managed to do that.
Oh, I'll tell you what, yeah. It's all about me. I mean, we always say that we don't try and bring egos into this, but, every now and then.
Why not? You've got a name drop every now and again. Get yourself in there.
But look, let's there will be netball players who are far better than myself and Jez, who are also much younger than myself and Jez, that will be in and around the Mavericks squad for the season coming up. So with Gabby in that leadership role as vice captain, how much influence do you have sort of nurturing those players as they're coming through? And, there's the likes of, I always pick out Bella Bayliss, who is, it's annoying how young and how talented she is. I don't like her. But, there are people all around the development pathway and even in the senior squad who have a really bright future. Are you looking to have an active role in helping them come forward? Or
yeah, absolutely. I remember when I first joined Mavericks, and I was I can't remember exactly the age group, but I remember watching Aaliyah and Bella playing when they were younger, and to now be playing in a squad alongside them is just, for me, it's fantastic, and it's testament to the work that the coaching team have done to be able to facilitate their progression through the pathway to now being amongst the VNSL squad. I think it's testament to their hard work, but the coaches' hard work as well. And yeah, for me to just be playing alongside them is fantastic. I think we had a conversation before training on Thursday night about being sponges and trying to learn as much and grow as much as possible. And I think Bella and Aaliyah are two fantastic examples of that, because they come into training every week and they're so willing to learn, willing to listen, and willing to push us hard. And as Kat said earlier, there's nothing more exciting than a hungry young player who wants to get out on court, and they're two fantastic examples of that. So if I can try and encourage them and help them as much as I can, then I will do so. But equally, they're pushing me hard in training every week. I'm learning as much off them as they're learning off me, and I think that's testament to the environment that we've created this year, whereby it's not me just trying to encourage the young players. They're encouraging me and they're pushing me as well, and yeah, that's a fantastic position to be in. And I'm equally as not jealous of Bella Bayliss, but her talent as a mid-quarter is phenomenal, and something that I sit back and watch her do. I think obviously I've been injured recently, so it's been really nice to just sit and watch her doing her thing in the mid-court. And same with Aaliyah. She's been coming into training. She's been just terrorising our attackers, coming out with ball left, right and centre. And for us going into the season, that's the sort of energy that we need and the fearlessness that we need. So, yeah, testament to them, and I'm excited to watch them do their stuff this season.
I think we've just had a bit of a glimpse of why Gabby's in a leadership role there, especially, learning off of players who may be less experienced but have different techniques, different styles. You're always learning as a netball player, but anything really. I wouldn't know if you're still learning as a netball player. I'm learning as a netball player, definitely. So, All credit to you, Gabby, and yeah, we're looking forward to the healthy competition in mid-court there as well.
The thing to say on the back of that for you, Kat, then looking at these young players, I mean, talent is obviously important, but it seems more important almost is having the right attitude and having the right energy and the right ethos to it. That, you know, you could be hugely talented, but if you haven't got that attitude, that energy, that willingness to learn, how can you, are you going to look at that player with perhaps 1% less talent, but with the right attitude ahead of the player who's amazingly talented, but he thinks they've got it all sorted anyway?
100%. And as Gab said, Bella and Aaliyah have literally from the first pre-season training, and there's been a couple of times where we've been in the cricket hall or we've been on court, they've really been pushing the boundaries and really pushing the standards and professional standards within the group. So for those two in particular, I've been really, really impressed, and it absolutely is about the right people around the court and around the squad and making sure that we continue to push. And they are the first people that look to themselves. So if there's an error that's gone on or if there's something that they can do, they look to themselves first before looking and blaming to other people, which is something that is a pet hate of mine. And it's really important that you do look internally first before you then start questioning somebody else. And the qualities and the traits that they're bringing into every single training session has been really, really positive. They both had really good experiences at Netball Europe in age group, and they've really brought those professional standards back in as well. So I think it goes both ways from a Saracens Mavericks perspective as well as an England perspective. And yeah, just been really, really impressed. They've come through our pathway, and Sachel Grant's done a fantastic job of nurturing them and working with them to get the best them. And as I say, Aaliyah's been with us for a couple of years now. Bella's been in amongst it and in the minx, and she's also been growing and developing, and I couldn't be prouder of those two in particular. It's really exciting to see their development coming through, and I'm excited for the season for both of them.
I've got one final question, actually, just to throw it in, because I should have asked it earlier. Gabby, how's the juggling going?
Yeah, not too bad. I've tried to step away a little bit from the juggling because it was taking over my life. Like, people were asking me about it all the time. It was becoming quite a lot. So I've been a little bit lower key with my juggling recently. But I'm sure when you come along on Friday, you might be treated to a few little juggling master classes before the game begins.
I'm sorry, I had to ask.
I can give you some tips.
Oh, definitely not. I think I'm probably even worse at juggling than I am at netball. So there we go.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really excited to see what happens with the season. I'm sure Matt is. I do want, though, Matt to have worked out a chant for Gabby by Friday when you go to start a Gabby Marshall style chant going on Friday night. Matt, that's your challenge. But I think from us here on the Fezcast, thanks for joining us again, and all the best for the future. It sounds like it's going to be a really, really exciting season coming up ahead. I'm going to try and get along to a game or two. I know my bonus daughter, my stepdaughter, Gemma, she loves netball, so I'm going to try and take her along to a game at some point. And as I say, don't let Matt put you off on Friday, Gabby, when you're playing.
But yeah, God, thank you very much for joining us once again. I'm looking forward to my trip to Hatfield next Friday, and we'll have an eye on the results this weekend as well. So, Gabby, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hi, this is Jez from the Fezcast to tell you about another one of my passions. I love music, and I have my own radio podcast station, Taka Blow Big Radio. This is the home of great music presented by myself and my friends, be it folk, rock, indie anthems, progressive music, you name it, we've got it covered. So if you want to listen to some great music, tune into us at mixcloud.com/TarkaBlowpig.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to our second part of our interview with Hayden Thompson Stringer. Thanks again, Hayden, for joining us. And we decided for the second part, given that the Six Nations is about to start, be interesting to get an idea from the French perspective, as it were, of what's going on. And this is your chance now, Hayden. I'm running a prediction game, which I do every year on the Six Nations, for people to raise money for motor neurone disease, and we'll put that out at the end of the show, how you can get involved if anybody wants to get involved. But first of all, how do you think it's going to go? And looking at the French team that has been progressing hugely over the last couple of years, with obviously the aim being next year's Rugby World Cup. What levels of excitement are there in France? Because I'm tipping France to win this. Not only the Six Nations, but I think France I'm going to put a sneaky tenner on them for the Rugby World Cup, because I think given that they could easily blow up as well, but they are looking very, very good.
I think they're ultimately excited. You have such a young squad and young players going into the squad who are performing week in, week out in the top 14. Like I said to you, they play rugby week in, week out. And that is one of the things that helps them massively, is because they play so much rugby at a good level. I mean, looking at it from my point of view, I think that France are definitely the team to beat. I think they're definitely going to be pushing the edge. But then again, like I said to you earlier, all it takes is for one of them games for them not to be on it, and then the tables turn. Because as we've seen in past friendlies and Six Nations and World Cups, sometimes they don't turn up, and that ultimately can destroy the team. But you look at the other teams in the Six Nations at the moment, you've got a lot of young, exciting players coming through. I mean, England have got literally unbelievable players who are not even in the squad, but they've got options there all around. So I think it all depends on what team turns up on the day. But if you're looking at it from an outsider's point of view and don't really know much, I think France would be your safest bet at the moment.
I mean, the one player France have got at the moment, just being awarded World Player of the Year, although I think Maro Itoje was slightly unlucky there, but that's with our first cast bias head on it. But Antoine Dupont, he's special, isn't
he? He brings something to the game that not a lot of other nines bring, and he has this aspect about him that every single area of his game is strong. The only other nine I know that is very similar to that is Faf de Klerk, in a sense, and the way they play. But Dupont is young; he's still learning. He's at the perfect team to learn, to keep performing. He's strong. His game knowledge and understanding is second to none. And he's just playing rugby better and better week in, week out. And you kind of get to a point where you think, well, is this going to stop? Is he going to, have a bit of an off game? But he doesn't. He's always solid. And I think that is one of the things that keeps him going, is that consistency of playing well at a high standard, at a high level, and then taking that onto an international level, and bringing what he does in top 14 to these games. He's single-handedly turned around games for Toulouse and come off the bench and won games. Same with France. He's single-handedly turned around games. Like, he'll make tackles, and you wouldn't expect him to make tackles like he does, the size of him, but he does. He can kick, he can pass, he offers that bit of unique skill that not all nines have. Like you say, I think Maro was unlucky, but when someone has come out, because I feel like he's been around, but he hasn't been on the scene massively for a long time. Marrow's been there a bit longer, so for this guy to come out of nowhere and to do what he's doing now is, it's crazy, and it'd be interesting if, luckily or hopefully, he stays injury free and keeps pushing on. And it'd be interesting to see how he does perform.
I think someone does need to have a bit of a word with him. I don't know if you've seen it. His photo shoot he's done recently, Mr. Upon that dressing gown is that's something else. I think that's French media. To be completely honest with you, we've got a few players who have had a few very, very disturbing photo shoots, to say the least. I think there's a lot of them all around the top 14, but I think that's French media for you. You either like it or you don't. Well,
of course, you mentioned the French media there, and rugby being perhaps. We don't see it over in this country, over in the UK so much. Perhaps in Wales you would do, where local media, where Wales rugby is such a religion. Rugby in certain areas of France is a huge religion. How do you see what happens with the media, that when the French have a bad game, their media is brutal, isn't it? And I presume does that also follow itself down to the local level as well?
You'd be very surprised. It's not only the media, the supporters of the clubs for teams that are based in such unique, nice areas, with the people around it being so nice. Mm-hmm. Some of the messages people have received is disgusting, to be completely honest with you. And I think from a foreigner's point of view, looking at the French news, it comes across a lot more abrupt, because the way the French are, the way they speak, it comes a lot more direct. If you speak to a French guy, they'll read it and they just shrug it off because they know what it's like. But for us, we're not used to it. That happens throughout. All of the teams in the top 14 as well. You get that on a regular basis, week in, week out, from supporters and from media. And the media can be brutal. Like you've seen with everything, the media can add their own spice to it, and a lot of people always believe it. And that's not the way it should be, but that is the way it is. And there's not much you can do about that apart from carry on, move on, and get on with it at the end of the day,
Yeah, you've seen headlines in the past and everything like that, but I suppose the other question with France is, I was going to say, it's all well and good when you look at all that flair they've got in their back line. And we talked about Antoine Dupont, and for me, as I mentioned earlier on, being a slightly older vintage than yourself and Matt, I remember those teams of Pierre Babizier, Didier Cambero, Philippe Sella, Lassaquet, Serge Blanco, with all that flair that they could run from almost anywhere. But I think the most important thing for them is that they've also got a pragmatism about them that comes in a long way from Sean Edwards. His influence upon French rugby, just him working with the international side, but you could see it with the top 14 teams. That defensive mindset that he's brought to it's huge, isn't it? Yeah,
you see in French rugby recently that they've actually got a structure about them. Before, like you said, it was very jouet. Let's play. Let's just throw the ball around. Let's see what happens. But now you mix the two. You mix structure with knowing when to play in the right areas, knowing when to kick to touch, knowing when to kick for a contested ball, or when to play from your own 22. And that's what the French team are doing at the minute. They've got this balance right, and it helps with the players they've got. They've got players who can pull rabbits out of hats, and they all almost just have this balance down to a T at the minute. That's one thing they've got to do. They've got to keep that at the right level, because like you say, if you go one way, you then put yourself into a sticky situation of trying to play out your own 22 when you've got someone like Ireland's defence choking you on your own try line, or for instance, kicking the ball away when you should be playing, when you need to score. But that is the good thing with a French team at the minute. They can score from anywhere if they get their mix right. And I think that would be one of the things that they've got to do is just get that mix right in defence, in attack, and that they will be in good position to perform and outperform other teams.
And a lot of people have been saying for a long time, haven't they? It's very easy for us to do it, but we sit here for the last 10 years or so, and it's easy to take the mick out of a French team's ability to lose a game from a ridiculous position. But you can just see all the time that the talent is there for them to put the top teams to the sword if they put their mind to it. And it does, as Jez was saying with Sean Edwards, and from what you're saying there, they're not far off sorting that out completely. So I'd agree with you that they're probably favourites for the Six Nations and potentially the World Cup as well.
Yeah, like you said,
Hayden, is obviously we've mentioned some of the names that come through. Obviously Dupont, but adding Entermark, Pinot, two sons of very, very good players who've stepped up and proven themselves as well. But who do we look out for this year? Who's going to be the next star coming through in that French team? Who's impressed you that's perhaps moved into that international level over the last couple of years?
I'm pretty terrible with names, but Chris Tolliver's younger brother, who's at Toulouse at the minute, he's been in and out of the mix for the French team, but if you watch him play, he has this ability to. He's not as big as Billy, but he does the same stuff as Billy, and he has this ability to use his body and put himself into unbelievable positions to get around the park. He's been solid for Toulouse, and it's the same again. He's just biding his time. He plays, he doesn't play, he plays, he's on the bench. But I think he's one to watch. There's a centre from Clermont. I can't remember the name, so I do apologise. But they've got a lot of young players coming through. And then you've got the likes of the current hooker who's there performing, and Cyril the loosehead. He always is performing well. In a league like this, they love him over here. He's got the ability to play rugby as well, and that's what you need to kind of keep improving and keep getting better. You need to be able to adapt, to be able to play rugby. Like you say, it's not 20, 30 years ago when you were stuck in, okay, I'm on the pitch just to scrummage, which in France, that was the case, 5 years ago. Now there's this new era of players wanting to play, and I think you've got players like them who I've mentioned who are ready to play. You'll definitely see a lot more come through the likes of academies like Brive, who then go off and get signed by a bigger team and then start, playing unbelievably well. There's a 9 at Toulon who's just actually been picked by the 7th team, called Julien Blanc, who I played with last year. Just had this ability to just make something out of nothing and to just flick a switch and perform. So it wouldn't surprise me if someone like that just come onto the scene and got put into a good. Because ultimately, when you get put into a good team, your standards drive keeps going up, and you keep getting better around you with the people around you, and you keep performing better, and that allows you to play at a high level. So it wouldn't surprise me if someone like this, who's now signed at someone like Toulon, gets the opportunity to keep improving, keep getting better, and just like that. I could literally tell you so many people from the French league, but I couldn't tell you their names. I'm terrible with names,
That's fair
and
enough.
some of them are too hard to pronounce.
Well, we'll move on to the other teams in the Six Nations as well. And who do you think France are fearing? And obviously, we're going to ask you also about England, and I want to ask you about Owen Farrell. But first of all, just give us a little bit about who France are bigging up at the moment.
I think they'll be very scared of Ireland. Ireland they've never been, not they've never been far off of it. They've always been in and around it, and they've always been ready to perform. But they offer this defensive edge that I don't think many teams have, that can shut teams down. We've seen it in the past, playing in friendlies, and like I said, in big important games. If they turn up on the right day, with the way they can perform in defence, it'll shut down a team like France to play. But it comes down to it as well. You have to be able to attack off the back of that. And if Ireland, I could say that about anyone in the Six Nations, if they get the level right, I think, someone like Ireland, who have a very good defence, could then perform off the back of it with a good leader or the centres they've got, putting in a good shift and giving them options around the park in defence and attack.
Well, yeah, I tend to agree with you. And they've got an exceptionally good coach as well.
Yeah,
with a Saracens background, who probably has got the wrong colour tracksuit top on for me, personally. But we won't go into that. We have this thing that Jez rants, and it's normally about Eddie Jones. But I'm going to keep that out there. But if you're Eddie Jones, though, put you in his mind, which is somewhere where we try not to go too often. But how big a loss is Owen Farrell to that England team, given that he's now out for 10 weeks? I mean, me and Matt have already discussed the ramifications of that. But I mean, what does Owen bring to a team that is going to be missing that? Frankly, a lot of people outside of Saracens don't seem to see.
I think Eddie Jones will be absolutely gutted. I read a post saying that he's fine, and then he had an injury update the week after, which was then when we found out that he was injured for another 10 to 12 weeks. I think at that point, he would have been very frustrated, because like you said, people outside of rugby can look at Owen Farrell and be like, oh, I don't like him, don't like the way he is, don't like the player he is. But no one can judge him for the way he performs. He has this it's hard to say because I've played and trained with him. He has this level about him that he is so good at what he does. He wants everyone to be that good around him, which ultimately you need in a team, because like I said to you earlier, if your 10's pushing you to play better, you will play better. Every time, like I was in and around him, I just felt like my standards, were on the rise, because I don't want to be that person who mucks up. I don't want to be the person that, gives him the opportunity to shout at me, because he will ultimately shout at you, but he's not doing it from a horrible point of view. He's doing it from the point of view that he's one of the best in his position in the world. He wants you to be performing at a high enough level to be the best to be the best in your position in the world. So like everything he does comes from a good place. It just comes across wrong sometimes. And like we said with media, they jump on things, and the incident with Wasps a few was like last season or 2 seasons ago, where he made the high tackle on the fullback. Like, you can see there was no intention on his tackle, but everyone's going to be like, he's got a reputation for this, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, mistakes were made, things happen in rugby, people get injured. That is rugby. But he just brings this work rate, this discipline and honesty to the way you play, that drives the squad around you. And with a squad like England have got at the minute, with a lot of young players, I think you need someone with experience and leadership like him to come in and be like, no, you're wrong. You need to be doing it this way, or this is the level we need to be setting the bar at, not down here, because he is the one person you'll listen to and be like, okay, we need to pull ourselves together here, because he's right. He's been in this situation before. He understands the situation we're in. And like you say, there's unbelievable players in the English league at the minute and playing for England, but it's whether they gel together or they perform well together, because egos get in the way and people push in front of other people. And when you have someone at the top like Farrell who just sets the tone for the level you want to play at, then that's the level everyone is at, rather than individuals dropping off. But you do still get that from the likes of Marrow and stuff like that. But I think Faz gets it across in more of an aggressive way, which sometimes isn't a bad thing,
Well, that leads on to the next question, in so much as obviously Owen would have come back in, would have been captain without a shadow of a doubt. He is Eddie's captain. However, obviously, end of the November internationals, Courtney Law stepped up, did a very good job, has to be said, though he's carrying injuries and knocks. And certainly when I watched him against Saracens at Franklin's Gardens, he wasn't anywhere near the level that he was 2-3 months previous.
Right, yeah.
Again, put yourself in Eddie's shoes. Who's your captain for that Scotland game at Murrayfield? Who is walking out at Murrayfield ahead of everybody?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, you have the likes of Marrow, who ultimately people know can lead a team. People know that he can perform week in, week out, and can drive the standards around the squad. But then you can look at someone like Ellis Genge, who ultimately has been the perfect leader for Leicester to put them in the position they're in. And no doubt will, if he carries on the way he is, push himself in the right direction to be pushing him at a level where he as hard as it is for me to say it, I think he's put himself into a good position to get that call up. You could go on the basis of, he's only been a captain 1 year. Is he a bit temperamental at times? Can that be led astray? Yes, it can. But ultimately, no one knows what Eddie's going to pick, and that's the shit thing about it. Sorry, excuse my language. Is we may think one thing, but he'll do the other thing just to prove a point.
Well, that's it. I mean, my theory with Eddie Jones is whatever Clive Woodward says, Eddie will do the opposite just on sheer bloody mindedness. And if Clive Woodward was clever, Clive Woodward would say the opposite of what he wants to happen, and then he would do.
To get it to.
But that's the last question I've got for you.
Sorry, just quickly if anyone does, I do think what he does as a coach is very good. I do think the way he puts in the team out there and the way they play rugby is a good standard. That's not me saying he does everything wrong, because not ultimately one person's opinion is just an opinion. It could be wrong, it could be right. His opinion may be wrong, it may be right, but he's learning as we're going, and you'll never get someone that every single person in the world will be like, yep, he's right. There'll always be someone who disagrees with what he's going to say. So I do think he still at this moment is the right person for the job. And you get a lot of people doubting him and the way he is, and that sometimes you've got to just think there's a method to the madness, and it's worked. It has been working, and
I can only assume that my CV's been lost down the back of a final cabinet somewhere or something like that. I put it in regularly, but
let's just make sure that's Hayden making sure he's still in the frame for a call up if he comes back to England, isn't it?
Just in case.
The last question I was going to ask you before we finish up this interview, though, is that there's a new law's going to be tried out in the Six Nations, which is that at the scrum, the hooker will need to have 1 foot forward in the position ready to hook the ball, which won't happen because Scrum Master will put the ball in at number 8's feet. It'll be like a rugby league squad anyway. But you as a prop forward now, how do you find scrums anyway? And second question is, do you think that would improve it, make it forcing the hookers into a more natural, as I do the inverted commas there, hooking position?
If I'm completely honest with you, scrummaging is horrible. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's you're going head to head with someone, and the actual adrenaline that you get from it is amazing. But if you're at the bottom of a 16-man pile up, sometimes it's not the best place to be in. In terms of the hooker having to bring his foot forward now, I think it allows teams to get a better impact on the way the scrum's set up. It allows teams to get a better shot off. I think it all depends on whether like you say, whether the 9 actually does feed to the foot or does feed straight to the back, because the putting a rule in is one thing, but actually abiding by it is another. But it is what it is. Scrummaging is what it is as well. You just got to push harder than you ever pushed before and see if you win at the end of the day, because a lot of the time it comes down to a guessing game for referees. And if I'm honest, they don't actually have a massive idea on what's going on. I could sit there and watch numerous games and tell you that that's the wrong call because I've seen something that he's not. But, he's not trained to be a prop. He's not trained in that area, so you wouldn't see what's going on. So in terms of like them saying, okay, well, they now have to start bringing their foot forward. I know before that Jamie George used to hook with his knee at points, like it. I think it will be one of the things that you have to see how it goes for the first few months, and then they may say, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's go back a bit, or referees ease up on that call a bit. Now you won't see many pings on it because they've realised that it's a bit of a rogue one, But ultimately, if they think it's going to make it safer for us, if they think it's going to help us, I'm all for it, because safety is the main thing at the end of the day.
Sounds like we need more props as referees as well. But
yeah. Well, they'll be good for 40 minutes as long as they've got a sub.
Absolutely. But Hayden, thank you ever so much for your time this evening. As I say, we've recorded this Thursday before we go live on the Tuesday. We wish you all the best with your career in France and wherever your career may take you in the future. We don't wish you an awful lot of luck for the game in April, obviously, but I mean, we hope it's a good game and that we get to see you performing against the Saracens over there in Brive. And give our regards to all of your colleagues over there in France, and the best luck for the top 14 season, if not the rest of the Challenge Cup against us. And as I say, thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, that was fantastic stuff there from all those 3 interviews that we played through there, the 2 parts with Hayden, and then the part about the Saracens Mavericks with Gabby and Kat. Brilliant stuff, Matt. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's been a good week, hasn't it? It's great to get views from all around the Saracens family, past and present as well. But great to hear from Hayden and how he's doing out in France. And he didn't really give too much away, but I'm sure he's really looking forward to that first scrum against us in April, and seeing if you can get one over on probably Vincent Koch, I guess. So it'll be a real test of how he's developed over there.
Absolutely will be. Well, time for us to wrap this one up. It's been a bumper edition. Couple of bits of parish notices though. First things first, I do want to say is that Six Nations starts this weekend, and I am running for Motor Neurone Disease Association my normal Six Nations prediction game. So if anybody fancies having a go at prediction game, all you have to do in it, Matt, is you have to say who's going to win all 15 games, and then you get a points spread. So like 1 to 6 points, 6 to 10 point, whatever. And then you predict who's going to win, who's going to be top point scorer, who's going to be top try scorer, how many points, how many tries in total. And the winning people share half the money, and half the money goes to Motor Neurone. It only costs a £5. So if anybody wants to enter that, just email me, Jez Denton, all one word, JEZDENTON @hotmail.co.uk. I'll send you the forms and the rules how to pay me £5. And please do enter that. That'll be good fun and raise some money for Motor Neuro. And other than that, all to say is that our next show is going to be going out on the 15th of February, which is the week of something very important, Matt. Do you know what that week is?
It's half-term week. I've got to do a big event at work.
It's half-term the week after. No, on the Sunday, the 20th, it's my 50th birthday. So this is going to be my 50th birthday celebratory a Fezcast. So if you can organise to get Richard Hill on the Fezcast, because my big rugby hero, that would be good. Or
I'll sort of compromise with you a bit. I'll get someone called Richard Hill on the podcast.
Yeah, it'll be the former Bath scrum half Richard Hill. But that's coming up. So that'll be my 50th birthday on the Sunday after we go live next time on the 15th. So I suppose all that remains to say is thank you again, Matt, for your time. Thank you to Hayden, Kat, and Gabby for their time and some fabulous interviews. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
You're listening to the Fezcast.